What's going on, everybody? It's Professor Zeus, and I'm back with another video. Yo, if this is your first time at the channel, just know I greatly appreciate you for stopping by. Again, thank you for stopping by. Go ahead and hit subscribe. We're on our way to 2,000 subscribers. We are taking the humble route. Guys, today I want to talk about a few different topics that have been going on in the political space that, a lot of people are upset about um, or people are happy about. We got Elon Musk. He's now starting the America Party to disrupt the two-party system that America has. We also have the current administration, the Trump administration, now saying that they do not have any, I guess, resources or anything to indicate that there is no, excuse me, no Jeffrey Epstein client list, which has got a lot of people upset. And then just some updates on tariffs and where we stand on that. So I just want to talk about that briefly, try to give a breakdown, try to give you guys the facts, and just try to inform people who may not know what's going on in the current landscape of life right now. So, and there's a lot to unpack. So let's start off with Elon Musk, right? You know, on July 5th, he stated that I guess a few days before that, he ran a poll on Twitter or X stating that I think it's time, that we start a new party for America called the America Party. And then he, quote unquote, unleashed it on the 5th. And the funny thing about the America Party is not to be confused with, President Trump's America First slogan, even though it's a nod to that. And Elon is saying that this party will essentially represent the 80% that's in the middle, that focuses on cutting national debt, reducing regulations, protecting free speech, and treating the Second Amendment as sacred. He's even floated, the whole idea of targeting a few key congressional races in 2026 to disrupt the Republican and the Republican and Democratic races. And the issue with that is, or should I even say issue? But the thing about that is, this move obviously comes because as I've stated before, Elon and President Trump are having a huge dispute that everybody's watching, right? Elon has spent over 250 million, essentially backing President Trump in his campaign, but now their bromance has gotten a little bit sour over the whole issue of the big beautiful bill, which is a massive tax and spending package that Elon called a disgusting abomination. I think I discussed that in one of my previous videos, because it's essentially ballooning the deficit. And President Trump, he fired back, calling Elon a train wreck, and just mocking the whole idea of a third party, saying that it will only cause disruption and chaos, right? And critically, the America Party does have a point, right? Both parties, that is Republican and Democrat, and they kind of get cozy with a lot of wasteful spending, right? But third parties in the U.S. rarely succeed due to the system that we got, which is kind of like a winner takes all type system. So is Elon really serious about building a movement, or is this just another billionaire throwing a tantrum? We have seen countless times that Elon does have a thing for, I guess, what they call shiny object syndrome, which is once he sees a new thing, he's like crazily obsessed over that. So we'll see if this is something that he's really trying to pursue. But his main one of his main sources of income, Tesla, his baby, essentially, a lot of investors are getting mad because, again, we're now in the second half of the year, but the first half of the year, Elon was so focused on politics, and Tesla took a huge hit as far as investors not being happy with him for not focusing on Tesla, but instead focusing on politics. So we'll see, because his favorability has tanked, and we obviously seen the Tesla protests. So again, America First, or excuse me, America Party could be a risky move. We'll see if he'll be able to pull this off, but Elon definitely has a way with going about things that are in his head. Next, we can talk about the Jeffrey Epstein files, right? A topic that a lot of Republicans and conservatives are really passionate about, right? For years, there's been a lot of pressure from, the Republican far right side to release all documents that are tied to Jeffrey Epstein, who was essentially someone who was in really high in finances and different things like that, who died by suicide in 2019 while facing sex trafficking charges. Now, in February 2025, Attorney General Pam Bondi released some unredacted files, but mainly remained sealed, fueling a lot of conspiracy theories, right? So back then, a lot of conservative influencers came to the White House and they were given, a binder that says the Epstein files, phase 1, different things like that. So everybody was like, oh, can't wait to phase 2 to see about all the people, all the elites who are kind of intermingled or intertwined with this whole sex trafficking ring, right? And then it got even crazier because Elon, with his whole feud with President Trump, he posted that, President Trump's name was in the unreleased Epstein files, and that's why they're still sealed. But, he just sent a tweet out. He really didn't offer any evidence, and the post was deleted by June 7th. But obviously the damage was done. And, by July 7th, Elon was doubling down, right? Trolling President Trump with a meme about no arrests being made with the Epstein case, right? So the Trump administration, they hit back hard. Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, called Elon's claims unfortunate and a distraction from President Trump's legislative agenda. Now, President Trump himself denied any deep ties to Jeffrey Epstein, noting, he banned him from his Palm Beach club years ago. And then, Jeffrey Epstein's former lawyer, David Scowen, even said Epstein had no dirt on Trump, but we have seen countless images of President Trump and Jeffrey Epstein. I'm talking about countless. But at the same time, we've seen a whole bunch of people who are in Hollywood, that higher class, those elites also have pictures with Jeffrey Epstein. Is that a coincidence? Who knows? We've seen flight logs from 2021 showing, President Trump flew on Epstein's plane, several times, but there's no evidence of quote unquote wrongdoing. And, obviously Elon's accusations without proof feel like a cheap shot in order to get, the MAGA base, riled up against President Trump. But at the same time, conservatives have the right to be, frustrated. Why are some of Epstein files still sealed, right? This whole administration has been pushing that transparency matters, right? And the public deserves answers. Still, Elon's deleted posts and a lack of evidence weaken his credibility here. It's a mess on both sides. And obviously, it's unfortunate because now, they've come out now and said that there's no Epstein files or no Epstein's client list. So now a lot of people on the right, people on MAGA, super Republicans, conservatives, you name it, are extremely frustrated because they thought that once President Trump got into office, that he would release all the files and just, again, going back with that whole transparency matters effort. And now for them to say, oh, there's no files, there's no list, it's kind of like a stab in the back, right? That thing where it says, don't piss on my head and tell me it's raining type of thing. So a lot of people are really upset about that, and they thought that they'd be more transparent. Now, real quick, we'll talk about the tariffs. President Trump has, put 50% tariffs on the EU, 30% on South African goods. He now has put some more tariffs, or 25% tariffs on 25% tariffs on Japan and South Korea. And a lot of people in the EU now, they're gearing up for countermeasures, and they say they have deals with China, but President Xi, they haven't really resolved any tensions, right? So a lot of people now are arguing that tariffs, they protect U.S. jobs, but others say they raise price for consumers and disrupt supply chains, especially for companies like Tesla that rely heavily on global trade, right? And the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, estimates that the big beautiful bill, which is also tied to tariffs, will add $2.4 trillion to the deficit over a decade, right? Even though President Trump is claiming that it's going to be a record cut in expenses. Now, tariffs, some people may argue, can shield American industries, but they're kind of like a blunt tool, right? Higher costs could hit us as consumers extremely hard. And if trade partners retaliate, it's American businesses and workers who are going to suffer. So Elon's warning about recession and different things like that, they're not baseless, but his flair for drama makes it hard to separate fact from fiction. So we need data. We don't just need headlines to see if America is really coming out on top. Because remember, they said 90 deals, 90 days, and we have yet to see that. And I believe it was either today or tomorrow that was supposed to be the end of the 90-day tariffs, and we have yet to see anything. But that's kind of what's going on right now. Elon Musk's America Party trying to shake up politics, but it's a long shot. The Epstein files are just now fueling more conspiracies now because they said that they were going to release it and they've been unreleased, and now they're saying that they're not even existent, right? And with tariffs, again, this is a huge gamble that may or may not pay off for Americans. But let me know what your take is on this. Should Elon start this party? Are tariffs hurting or helping the American citizen? And are you more or less inclined or not to be interested to see these Epstein files, to see if they're actually real, if they were ever real in the first place, that people destroyed them? Who knows? Let me know what your take is on all these things that we discussed. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you made it this far, hit that like button, hit that bell notification to always get notified when I drop a new video. And never, ever forget, man, it's you and I verse. Information, application, execution. Until next time, peace.